Last week, we exposed the turbo versus supercharger deception that's been fooling car enthusiasts for 50 years. We revealed how marketing departments weaponize technical terms to sell you lies wrapped in shiny badges. But I left out the most explosive secret of all. While manufacturers scramble to slap turbos on everything from economy cars to pickup trucks, claiming efficiency and performance gains, there's a quiet rebellion happening at the absolute pinnacle of automotive engineering. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, McLaren, the companies that build the fastest, most expensive, most technologically advanced cars on Earth are deliberately, intentionally, stubbornly refusing to follow the forced induction trend. And they're not doing it because they're stuck in the past. They're not doing it because they can't afford the technology. They're doing it because they know something that mainstream manufacturers pray you'll never discover. Something so fundamental about engine design that it threatens the entire foundation of modern automotive marketing. Tonight, we're going to expose the naturally aspirated conspiracy. We're going to reveal why a 500 horsepower naturally aspirated engine can feel faster than a 700 horsepower turbocharged motor. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the most sophisticated automotive engineers on Earth are willing to sacrifice fuel economy, emissions compliance, and marketing appeal for something far more valuable. But first, we need to understand what they're really protecting. Part 1. The physics of pure power. Here's what no automotive journalist will tell you about naturally aspirated engines. They don't just make power differently than forced induction motors. They make power in a way that defies modern automotive logic. A standard induction engine breathes like a human athlete. No mechanical assistance, no exhaust-driven turbines, no belt-driven compressors, just pure atmospheric pressure, piston displacement, and the laws of physics. And here's the part that'll blow your mind. That limitation is actually their greatest strength. When you mash the throttle on a pure breathing engine, every single horsepower is available instantly. Not after boost builds, not after lag disappears. Instantly. The throttle response is so immediate that it operates faster than your nervous system can process. But here's where it gets truly insane. The power delivery is completely linear. From 1,000 RPM to redline, power builds in a predictable, controllable curve that allows drivers to modulate throttle input with surgical precision. No sudden boost spikes, no lag valleys, no turbocharged power bands that feel like someone flipped a switch. This is why professional racing drivers, people whose careers depend on extracting maximum performance from machinery, still prefer naturally aspirated engines when given the choice. Formula One drivers from the 1990s will tell you that the naturally aspirated V12 and V10 eras produced the most driver-focused, skill-rewarding racing in the sport's history. Before turbos returned in 2014 and made the cars faster but less pure. But the physics lesson is just the beginning. The real conspiracy runs much deeper. Part 2. The sound deception. Every car manufacturer in 2025 pumps fake engine noise through your speakers. BMW, Ford, Volkswagen, they all use artificial sound enhancement to make their turbocharged engines sound more exciting than they actually are. But here's what they don't want you to realize. They're doing it because forced induction fundamentally changes how engines sound, and that change reveals something terrifying about modern automotive design. A turbocharger acts like a muffler in the exhaust system. Those spinning turbine wheels absorb acoustic energy, dampening the raw exhaust note that naturally aspirated engines produce. The result? Muted, artificial, synthesized sound that lacks the emotional impact of true engine noise. Superchargers create their own acoustic signature, that distinctive whine, but it masks the actual engine note underneath. You're hearing the forced induction system, not the motor itself. Meanwhile, a naturally aspirated engine produces pure, unfiltered acoustic violence. Every combustion event, every intake stroke, every exhaust pulse reaches your ears without electronic intervention or mechanical dampening. This is why a Ferrari 458 with 570 horsepower sounds more violent than a McLaren 720S with 710 horsepower. The 458's naturally aspirated V8 produces authentic acoustic aggression. The 720S's twin-turbo V8 produces processed, dampened sound that McLaren supplements with electronic enhancement. But the sound difference isn't just about emotion, it's about information. Experienced drivers use engine note to judge RPM, load, and optimal shift points. Pure-breathing engines provide unfiltered auditory feedback that allows drivers to push closer to the absolute limit. Turbocharged engines mask that information behind boost noise and electronic processing. This is why Porsche still builds the GT3 with a natural flat 6, while their turbo models use forced induction. Racing drivers and track enthusiasts demand that authentic feedback. But even that revelation pales compared to what's really happening behind closed doors at supercar manufacturers. Part 3. The Engineering Heresy. In 2016, Ferrari committed what the automotive industry considered engineering heresy. They replaced the standard induction V8 in the 458 Italia with a twin-turbocharged V8 in the 488 GTB. The result? More horsepower, better fuel economy, lower emissions. Every measurable metric improved. And Ferrari's most loyal customers absolutely hated it. Not because the 488 was slower, it was significantly faster. Not because it was less sophisticated. The turbo technology was cutting edge. They hated it because it felt artificial, disconnected, less pure. Ferrari had committed the ultimate sin in supercar engineering. They had prioritized numbers over sensation. Here's what happened next. And this is where the conspiracy gets really interesting. Ferrari's engineers quietly began developing the most extreme, pure-breathing engine they'd ever created. A 4-liter V8 that would become the heart of the 458 Speciale and eventually evolve into current natural engine applications. But they didn't do this for nostalgia. They did it because they discovered something that contradicts everything modern automotive engineering claims to believe. A standard induction engine with 100 fewer horsepower can actually be faster around a racetrack than a turbocharged engine with more power. Not on paper, not in straight-line acceleration, but in the hands of a skilled driver who can exploit the advantages of instant throttle response and linear power delivery. This discovery sent shockwaves through the engineering departments of every supercar manufacturer because it meant that forced induction, the technology they'd been told was superior in every measurable way, was actually making their cars worse at the one thing that mattered most: pure driving experience. But the automotive press buried this story because admitting that less horsepower could equal better performance would undermine decades of marketing that equated bigger numbers with superior engineering. And that brings us to the most shocking revelation of all. Part 4. The rebellion spreads. While mainstream manufacturers chase horsepower numbers and efficiency ratings, supercar engineers are quietly staging a revolution. And it's happening right under the automotive media's nose. Lamborghini's Huracan still uses a naturally aspirated V10. In an era when everyone else has downsized to turbocharged V6s and V8s, Lamborghini builds a 5.2-liter engine that breathes pure atmosphere and revs to 8,700 RPM. Porsche's GT3 variants refuse forced induction, while their turbo models embrace it. Same manufacturer, same engineering team, completely different philosophies for different missions. McLaren's F1, still considered by many the greatest supercar ever built, used a boost-free BMW V12. no turbos, no superchargers, just 627 horsepower of pure linear power that redefined what automotive performance could be. But here's the part that'll shock you. These decisions aren't emotional. They're coldly calculated business strategies based on something the automotive industry doesn't want you to understand. The most discerning, experienced automotive customers, people who own multiple supercars, who track their cars regularly, who understand performance at the deepest level, they're willing to pay more for raw induction performance engines. Not because they're traditionalists, not because they're stuck in the past, because they know that naturally aspirated power delivery provides something that forced induction simply cannot match: connection, control, predictability. The ability to modulate power with precision that allows them to drive faster, more confidently, with greater skill development. This creates a two-tier market that manufacturers desperately try to hide. Mass-market performance cars use forced induction for efficiency and marketing numbers. Ultra-premium supercars use naturally aspirated engines for pure driving dynamics. And that gap is revealing something terrifying about the direction of automotive performance. Part 5. The coming extinction. Here's the secret that supercar manufacturers don't want you to discover. Non-boosted engines are becoming extinct, not because they're inferior, because they're incompatible with modern automotive regulations. Emission standards, fuel economy requirements, and noise regulations are systematically eliminating standard induction engines from production. Every year, another iconic motor disappears forever. Ferrari's naturally aspirated V12 in the 812 Superfast, gone after 2023, replaced by a hybrid V12. Lamborghini's V10, living on borrowed time. Porsche's GT3 Flat 6, each generation might be the last. This isn't progress. This is the systematic elimination of the most pure form of automotive power for regulatory compliance and marketing optics. But here's where it gets truly insane. The manufacturers know this. They're deliberately creating collector's items by building naturally aspirated engines they know will be impossible to produce in the future. The Porsche GT4, McLaren 600 LT, Ferrari 458 Speciale. These cars weren't just performance exercises. They were automotive archaeology, preserving naturally aspirated technology before it vanishes forever. And the customers who understand this are paying accordingly. Naturally aspirated supercars are appreciating faster than any other automotive segment because educated buyers know they're investing in the last examples of pure automotive engineering. Meanwhile, turbocharged performance cars depreciate like stones because everyone knows the technology will be common, replaceable, and ultimately forgettable. This creates a paradox that the automotive industry refuses to acknowledge. Their most advanced, efficient, powerful engines are also their most disposable, while their primitive, non-boosted motors become priceless. But there's one final secret that changes everything. Conclusion. The ultimate truth. The biggest lie in modern automotive engineering isn't that forced induction is superior to naturally aspirated power. The biggest lie is that horsepower numbers matter more than how that power is delivered. A 500 horsepower natural induction engine that responds instantly to throttle input, delivers linear power throughout the RPM range, and provides unfiltered feedback to the driver will always feel faster, more exciting, and more rewarding than a 700 horsepower turbocharged engine with lag, boost spikes, and artificial sound enhancement. This is why Ferrari charges more for non-turbocharged engines, why Porsche continues building GT3 variants, why Lamborghini refuses to downsize their V10. They understand that their most sophisticated customers aren't buying horsepower numbers. They're buying driving experience. And naturally aspirated engines provide something that no amount of forced induction technology can replicate: absolute, immediate, uncompromised connection between driver intent and vehicle response. Every throttle input is instant. Every power delivery is predictable. Every acoustic note is authentic. It's the difference between playing a violin and playing a synthesizer. Both can make music, but only one provides true artistic expression. But here's the tragedy. This knowledge is being systematically erased from automotive culture. New enthusiasts grow up believing that bigger horsepower numbers equal better performance. They never experience the purity of pure-breathing power delivery. They're being trained to accept artificial enhancement, electronic intervention, and processed performance as normal, as superior. And when the last standard induction supercar rolls off the production line, and that day is coming sooner than you think, an entire generation will never know what they lost. Unless people like you understand the truth. Share the knowledge. Demand better from manufacturers who have forgotten that automotive performance isn't about numbers on a spec sheet. It's about the connection between human and machine, the precision of unfiltered power delivery, the honesty of naturally aspirated engineering. The next time someone tells you that turbocharged engines are superior to naturally aspirated motors, you'll know they're repeating marketing propaganda designed to sell you efficiency disguised as performance. Real performance, pure performance, naturally aspirated performance is becoming extinct. And once it's gone forever. Final teaser. But there's one more automotive conspiracy that runs even deeper than forced induction versus naturally aspirated power. Something about manual transmissions that the entire automotive industry is desperately trying to bury. Because what we discovered about modern automatics, dual clutch systems and CVTs will fundamentally change how you think about automotive control and driver engagement. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and next week, we'll expose the transmission deception that makes the turbo naming scandal look like child's play. Trust me, this one will make you question everything you thought you knew about driving.